When Michael Drake relocated to Woodland Crossing, he longed for serenity, far from the interference of homeowners associations. But when an overly zealous president from a nearby HOA tried to assert dominance over his property, his sanctuary turned into a battlefield for rights. Michael Drake, a 35-year-old software developer, had finally realized his lifelong ambition of home ownership. After years of leasing and enduring urban chaos, he craved a peaceful escape, a space to focus on programming and appreciate a calm environment. He discovered that in Woodland Crossing, a charming Virginian suburb famed for its verdant scenery and lack of HOA governance, this freedom was a major attraction. He'd heard too many tales of HOAs dictating homeowners' lives with absurd rules about mailbox design or hedge height. Woodland Crossing bordered another community, River Bay, a pristine, though infamously draconian, HOA neighborhood. River Bay was notorious for strict adherence to its regulations, led by an authoritarian president. The newly appointed leader of the HOA was Joanna "Jo" Bradley, a determined, controlling figure driven by her vision of cultivating superior neighborhood standards. To Jo, the divide between River Bay and Woodland Crossing was more theoretical than actual. Michael's new residence sat directly along this contentious boundary, his rear fence dividing the governed River Bay from the regulation-free Woodland Crossing. His real estate agent had confirmed, and local deeds validated, that his land lay entirely outside River Bay's jurisdiction. That independence thrilled Michael. He could landscape freely, repaint his home, and sidestep pedantic oversight, or so he believed. For half a year, life in Woodland Crossing was blissful. Michael spent weekends gardening and building a workspace overlooking dense forest. His neighbors were warm yet private, and no HOA flyers or cautionary notices ever sullied his letterbox. Everything changed when Jo Bradley decided that Woodland Crossing was ripe for assimilation. Obsessed with extending River Bay's influence, she fixated on Michael's lot. In her eyes, its closeness to River Bay meant it should fall under her control. Quietly, Jo began reimagining the boundary, first mentally, then on a drawn map. Michael's carefully nurtured peace was about to be disrupted in ways he never foresaw. The house that embodied liberty and solitude would soon anchor a conflict he hadn't invited. The trouble began with an odd envelope. It displayed the River Bay HOA emblem, an elegant river beneath leafy trees. Inside was a formal citation listing alleged violations: overgrown blooms, non-compliant shrubs, and an unapproved mailbox. Bewildered, Michael reread the letter, sure it was a mistake. He'd confirmed that his home wasn't part of River Bay before buying it. Assuming it was an error, he tossed the letter. Then came another, and another, each increasingly stern, demanding adherence to HOA policies. The infractions grew more ludicrous: unauthorized flower beds and unsuitable yard ornaments. Though laughable, the notes felt strangely targeted, as if someone had singled him out. A week later, the calls started. The first voicemail was curt but formal. "This is Joanna Bradley, president of the River Bay HOA. You've violated several of our regulations. Please contact us to discuss bringing your home into compliance." Michael ignored it, but Jo was not one to tolerate silence. Her messages grew sharper. By the fourth, her tone was accusatory. "Refusing to engage doesn't absolve you. This is your last warning before penalties commence." Exasperated, Michael called her back, hoping to clarify the confusion. The call quickly soured. Jo's voice was clipped and icy. "Your house clearly falls within River Bay's limits," she insisted, unfazed by his rebuttals. "I have the community's map here. Your property is included." "I have the deed and the county's documentation," Michael replied firmly. "They clearly prove I'm in Woodland Crossing. Your map is incorrect." Jo's reply sent a chill down his spine. "You don't get to opt out of the HOA, Mr. Drake. Every home here follows our guidelines. You've got 2 weeks to comply, or we begin levying charges." After hanging up, Michael felt an unsettling dread. Jo's certainty suggested she wouldn't relent. He started gathering evidence, sending a certified letter to the HOA with copies of his deed and county records. He also installed security cameras around his home, a precaution prompted by growing unease. The notices continued. If anything, Joe escalated. Michael started spotting unfamiliar cars near his home, and the anxiety mounted. What started as administrative overreach was morphing into something more sinister. Michael realized this wasn't about shrubs, it was about power. And Joe Bradley wasn't known to yield. On a brisk Tuesday morning, the situation boiled over. Michael, deeply focused on a software project in his office, heard a harsh knock at the door. He glanced at the security feed. 3 figures stood outside. Joanna, dressed in a blazer with a badge, flanked by 2 men in workwear, toolboxes in hand. Their stance radiated aggression. Michael stayed put and spoke through the intercom. "Can I help you?" "This is Joanna Bradley, president of the River Bay HOA," she said, waving a laminated document. "We're delivering an official eviction notice due to your ongoing noncompliance." Michael laughed aloud. "Eviction? You've no legal claim here. My property isn't part of your HOA." Joe's expression soured. "Your lot lies within our bounds, whether you accept it or not. You've disregarded repeated warnings. You have 10 minutes to vacate, or we'll remove you ourselves." Michael's heart raced, but he masked his fear. "This is illegal trespassing. I'm phoning the police." Joe's eyes narrowed. "Call whoever you like. Jack, open the door." One of the men, a burly man in his 50s, approached the lock with tools. Michael dialed 911, voice calm but alert. "Someone's breaking into my house," he told the dispatcher. "They're from a neighboring HOA trying to evict me, but I'm not under their authority." The dispatcher assured him help was on the way. Michael kept the call active and moved to a secure spot, ensuring cameras recorded everything. On the screen, Jack manipulated the lock until the door cracked open, splintering the frame. Joanna barged in, finger pointed. "You are now evicted. Pack your belongings, or we'll do it for you." Michael stood firm, phone in hand. "You just broke in. The police are en route. I suggest you leave." Joe's voice rose to a shriek. "We are the legal authority. This property falls under HOA jurisdiction." The 2 men faltered. One mumbled, "Joe, maybe we should double-check." "Silence," she barked. "The rules are clear." Jack looked uneasy. "Look, man, we're just following orders." Michael said nothing. Outside, sirens blared louder. Joanna's boldness wavered. Moments later, 3 police vehicles arrived. Officers poured out, hands near their holsters. "Hands where we can see them," an officer barked. Joe tried to protest, but was swiftly cut off. "Ma'am, you and your companions are being detained for unlawful entry and attempted forcible removal." Michael, composed, handed over his ID and led officers to his documents. Another officer took statements. One of the men, visibly shaken, confessed. "She said it was legal. We didn't know." Joe's furious denial was silenced as officers handcuffed her. "You can't arrest me. I'm the HOA president." The officer replied coolly, "HOA power doesn't override property law. You're under arrest for trespassing and attempted unlawful eviction." Michael watched as they escorted Joe and her accomplices away. Relief flooded him, but the shattered door and surreal ordeal had shaken him. This wasn't over. He would make sure of that. Joanna's arrest kicked off a drawn-out and public legal saga. That night, a police officer helped Michael file a detailed report and referred him to a property law expert. The next day, Michael contacted the recommended attorney, Laura Grant. A seasoned litigator, she listened closely as he recounted the events. When he described the false eviction notice and forced entry, Laura chuckled dryly. "This is one of the wildest cases of HOA overreach I've ever seen. And with your footage, this'll be open and shut." She acted swiftly. Within days, she filed multiple lawsuits targeting Joanna Bradley, her enforcers Jack and Lucas, and the River Bay HOA. The criminal proceedings, led by prosecutors, charged them with trespass, unlawful entry, and attempted illegal eviction. Laura's civil suit demanded damages for vandalism, stress, lost earnings, and punitive charges. As the case progressed, more evidence surfaced. Joanna's eviction notice was traced to her personal computer, complete with a faked HOA letterhead. Investigators uncovered altered neighborhood maps she had presented to HOA members, falsely expanding River Bay's reach to include Michael's house. Emails from Joanna's personal account laid bare her intent. She saw Woodland Crossing as a disorderly wasteland, diminishing River Bay's prestige. Several board members, previously wary of Joe's methods, were subpoenaed and gave damning statements. One admitted she dismissed their warnings, saying, "I'll deal with it my way." Her blatant overreach and disregard for legal limits became central to the prosecution's case. The courtroom drama intensified. Joanna's lawyer argued she truly believed Michael's home fell under River Bay's scope and acted with good intentions. But Laura dismantled this defense using surveillance videos, emails, and official documents. Joe had ignored repeated alerts from her own board and county officials. This wasn't confusion, Laura said during closing. It was a calculated power grab with no legal merit. Joe's accomplices, Jack and Lucas, accepted plea bargains. They admitted their roles and testified against her, explaining how she convinced them they were enforcing valid rules. Their cooperation reduced their punishment, but painted Joe as manipulative and reckless. The criminal jury deliberated for less than a day. Joe was convicted on all counts and sentenced to 5 years in prison, no parole. The judge, unimpressed, added during sentencing, "You abused your authority and violated a man's home. This court will not tolerate such flagrant lawlessness." The civil trials ended similarly. The court awarded Michael $200,000 for damages, repairs, missed income, and emotional suffering. River Bay's insurer reluctantly paid out, then terminated its contract with Joe and issued Michael a public apology. County regulators increased scrutiny on the HOA. Under pressure, all remaining board members resigned. A new board was elected, pledging serious reforms, restricting presidential powers and mandating legal reviews for all HOA decisions. For Joanna, the fallout was catastrophic. Beyond her prison term, she faced bankruptcy after being ordered to pay an additional $50,000 in punitive fines. Her public image was destroyed, and news of her actions traveled far beyond River Bay, becoming a stark warning to HOAs everywhere.